Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast all about video games and beer. One of your hosts, Ben. It's episode 385. I'm here with Lucy.
Yeah.
Hello.
This is too intense.
Yeah, I don't know why I've started really quickly. I've got no idea.
I've been exhausted since mid last week, and then I went to Bristol, saw your lovely face, but involved a second night in a row of being very up very late. What time did you? We went to the pub, closed it down, and then walked home. I walked Ben home, and then walked up for 45 minutes.
I think I got back about 1-ish.
Yeah, so I got home at 2.
Damn.
The night before, I was at my house, my former housemates, my former house, and stayed up until 4:45. Both days, I woke up at 9.
Wow.
And then my train got delayed, so I arrived at home at 1:30 on Monday, technically.
Jeez.
Guess what time I woke up?
Was it around 9 o'clock?
It was actually 8:30. But yeah, so, and then it's just been one of those weeks at work, so I'm like, but also, hey friends, let's drink some beer.
Amazing. Let's drink some beer. Lucy. I'll come to you
Someone
first.
else go first.
Oh, Aadil.
1 second.
I'll come to you first.
Back in
Is
a
anyone
second.
doing a 2-beer day? Because I brought 2 upstairs, but I'm happy to just have 1, but it'll influence which one I have.
I think Lucy mentioned 2 beers earlier as well.
Yeah, but I couldn't. I've had a dinner.
Okay.
So, I mean, you feel free, but
No,
yeah.
that's okay.
I'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Well, given that I mentioned Bristol,
Mm.
I'm going to have this. So I was also given like 12 beers over the weekend.
Yes.
3 of which I managed to drink. The rest, more than that, actually, probably now that I think about it, given how many I drank on the trip to 5:30. But I'm drinking the Wiper and True Pomona Island. You see it as you go.
Ooh, nice.
Which is a 5.5% pale ale because I miss Wiper and True, and you can't get it easily here. And also,
Oh, no, and also you're frozen.
the talented Pomona Island team, brewed using flaked oats and Munich barley for a silky smooth mouthfeel with a touch of malty sweetness. Hop notes of white wine and grape are balanced with tropical fruits thanks to Amarillo, Cashmere, and El Dorado. Store and serve chilled. Our beer is unfiltered and may contain sediment. Pour gently.
Nice. What was it called?
You see it as you go.
Oh, yes, okay, I see. It's got
And it's got
a side mirror, a wing
the
mirror.
wing mirror of a car in the purple of Pomona Island. It's a neat
Yes.
line drawing, actually.
Yeah, I think we mentioned a few weeks ago, Wiper and True are, or have been of recent, maybe a year, maybe a little bit longer, expanding a little bit with their can art as well, and coming out with more individual kind of images
Yeah,
rather
versus
than
the, like,
stuff.
gold leaf.
It hits the gold leaf formula of kind of what they're putting out. So
Yeah.
interesting. Oh, and she's back. Lucy, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a beer that I've been saving to have on here.
Ooh.
It's called Dreams of Brew York.
Nice.
It's a sour. This is part of the festive Christmas output this year. This is a festive apple pastry loaded with cherries, cranberries, and a hint of spice. So,
Oh, nice. Nice. I did
let's
see.
what this is.
I don't know what kind of beer style it was, but the bottle shop, Bottles and Books, I think had Nightmare of Brew York in
Yeah,
the
that
other
one's
day
nice.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might.
That's just a normal imperial stout,
Okay.
which is very nice.
I do need to go and do a little run over there to start sort of stashing up for Christmas. I've only got 1 beer in the stash for Christmas, which is one I brought back from France, which was
Nice.
an imperial stout. So far, it's sat all very lonesome in the cupboard by itself. I need some friends. So, talking of
I like your
stouts,
justification.
yeah, exactly. That's it, yeah. New Bristol Brewery have started putting out their kind of winter Christmassy sort of output. I can't remember what they call it. 12 beers of Christmas, 7 beers of Christmas, 8 beers of Christmas, however many they put out. But they've one released, I think, this week, or is about to release next week. So they will start to appear as well. And I think I'll slowly start to build up my stash over the coming weeks as more and more stuff starts to come out. But for tonight. For tonight, I'm drinking a beer that someone else drank a couple of weeks ago because they gifted it to me for my birthday. Yes, and it is the googly-eyed Tartarus. Is it Umibozu?
Umibozu.
Yeah, the squid ink, seaweed, and yuzu imperial goza. The 9.3% beer.
Yeah, so you're having 2 beers.
No.
Doing it.
2 beers, 1 glass. Did you need a knife to cut the wax off, or did it just pop?
Right through the,
Cool. Let's see how I get on with that. And we'll return back around to you, Aadil, to tell us about the Wiper and True Pomona collaboration.
Yeah. So it's got a lovely, fruity, slightly tropical fruity nose. Thinking a little pineapple, a little passion fruit. You poured with a bit of head, but it dissipated really quickly, such that I could finish the pour into this lovely glass. I immediately see what they mean about using the flaked oats and barley to give it that like a smooth texture. It really does have that slightly thicker mouthfeel to it.
Okay.
Which just clings to the tongue and the sides of the mouth a little more. And a swish. I mean, I kind of wish I hadn't read the flavor text because I'm not sure. There is grape. I think it said something about white wine and grape in the flavor text, and you definitely have those. In fact, much grapier than I was expecting. Where the especially given the nose, where the tropical fruits are kind of in the background. So it's still nicely bittered, but yeah, it's bittered. The malts are slightly more forward than your average, I would say, Wiper True Pale Ale. Like it's still quite nuanced in the way Wiper and True is, but like yeah, there's just they usually have everything kind of scale back a bit, such that you can tell the different levels of like the maltiness, the taste curve, the hoppiness. And here, it's yeah, it's just like there's just a bit more. It's a bit more malt forward than I would have thought, but again, it still has this lovely balance of that sort of just having the tropical fruits reserved enough to let the grapey white wineness sort of come out.
Okay.
So yeah, delicate, but a little more boisterous than I'm used to from them. Which it's a collab, so that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Pomona Island are usually kind of big beers, bigger flavour, or quite flavourful. Maybe not necessarily bigger beers, but flavourful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this sort of does seem like it's showcasing them both well. The finish is really nice. You're getting that wine and a bit of that maltiness, but in a way that works. Because when I say that out loud, it sounds less good. And I think it's just because they take a couple turns and then it finishes with a really nice bittering, like a nice bitter note when everything else kind of fades. So it's got a moment of biscuit in the finish, and then yeah, and a slightly bitter upturn, which makes it really satisfying to finish. Even though it's like got this delicate, medium delicate body. But it just the finish lasts for a while, so I could easily nurse this and still kind of take small sips and kind of try and pick apart that balance.
Yeah, nice.
Which is very Wiper and True. So yeah,
good.
I'm really liking.
Good. Lucy, as you've taken a sip.
Sour.
Did you expect anything different?
Not really. Ooh, you can definitely taste the spice. It's a nice warming spice. It tastes like slightly nutmeggy. Let me have a look at the flavour text, see exactly what's in here. Masses of cherries, yeah, you can definitely taste those. Cranberries? Do I taste cranberries? I'm not sure.
That's quite a hard flavour to come across, cranberry.
Oh, it's cinnamon. That's in there. Okay. Yeah, I should really read this. Anyway, this year we use masses of cherries, cranberries, and apple to create our festive sour. Cinnamon adds that hint of mulled spice with vanilla rounding off the tartness.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they could have done without the vanilla, honestly, because maybe that's the like kind of sweetness that I'm getting. I think I would have possibly would have just preferred just like just keep it sour
Okay.
because it's got like a kind of almost when you get like a beer that has like lactose in it and just slightly cloying, slightly sickly. This is bordering on that. It's not all the way there, but bordering.
Like the sweetness is just taking over a little too much, perhaps.
Yeah, at the end, for sure. And I think the apple doesn't help that either. It's an oddity. I think I've gone off sours anyway, but
right.
There's something. I don't know. Maybe there's too much in this. That it's just like, because like cherry lambic, for example, are great. Like I think I had one literally the other week, and that was very nice. It's like yes, you're still getting that sweetness, but it feels like the sweetness and the tartness in something like a lambic is just better balanced. Whereas this is, the flavors don't tend to marry in this. That sweetness and that sourness, and then got the spice going on in there too. I think the spice is probably a nice underlying tone because you're getting a bit of warmth from it, so that's nice. But yeah, I think everything else. I think it may just be a bit OTT. Yeah, it feels something. I don't know, very manufactured and
okay.
That's how it feels. It doesn't feel like the flavors marry or sing together enough. It feels like everything's trying to vie for attention and nothing ends up coming out on top, and it's just a little mess at the bottom. But maybe being a bit overly harsh on it. But yeah, this probably not what I want.
Okay,
but it's drinkable. It's drinkable.
Fair.
I'll finish it. No, it's not going down the sink crazy.
No, absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. We've had the conversation about Brew York before, haven't we? They can be quite hit and miss sometimes with varying styles and stuff. They have their staples. They have the styles that they're really just absolutely knock out, and then sometimes the slightly different beers or the things that you don't expect from them just don't quite hit.
No, that's why I'll always buy a stout from them, but everything else I usually leave on the shelf.
Yeah,
this was like completing the set of their free festive beers. So I was like, I was like nosy and curious enough to try it. So
yeah, fair. Speaking of nose, this is a ridiculous smell.
Oh yeah, I'm super curious.
Like it's so. It's almost edging towards something more like not necessarily like a gin, but the nose is getting much more towards a very berry kind of spirit, I would say. I didn't even. Did it give me much flavour text about what was in here? I can't remember whether it does or whether you read off of the website. It does actually.
Barrels.
Yes, it does give. It does give a little bit. I mean, it's got loads of stuff in it, isn't it? Loads of random things that you wouldn't expect, but yeah, it's an interesting nose. Obviously, it's almost green. You don't get that on the camera at all. Much more green when you kind of hold it up to the light. Just round the edges is very sort of. I don't even know whether you can get it up there. It looks maybe a little bit more blue, perhaps, on the camera.
Yeah.
Ignoring all of the other flavours that kind of kick in. Interestingly, that kind of like berry, or at least the sweetness of that berry, is like instantly there. As soon as you get it on your tongue, there's that sweetness, and then everything else kind of kicks in and goes, nope, that's not there at all. Here are all of the other flavors that are part of this.
Interesting. I think I had got hit, but maybe it's just that the burst of the salt was so strong that I didn't notice it initially. Might have started with berry, but for me it was like, oh, salty beer.
Very much. There is that little bit. I think it's right at the front. It's very easy to miss, and I think it's only because I'm sat here taking in the nose that it's a little bit easier to pick out as soon as it hits your sort of tongue. But that salt just cut through completely, doesn't it? It's sort of it's not all encompassing, but it kind of goes. Here are the flavors. Boomf.
Oh, and the salt just stays. Like. It's not all encompassing in the sense of it doesn't blow everything out, but while all the other things start to ebb and flow, it's like, oh, I'm here. At least that was the read I had off of it.
Absolutely. I think you get the umami, you get what they're kind of where they're kind of pushing that. You get maybe again that little bit of fruit at the front. Maybe not so much the other things like the coriander and stuff, but it'd be interesting
I think that the coriander's there is just closer to the finish. That's how I.
And I think it's interesting in how maybe there is that kind of, and again pushed by the salt perhaps. Maybe the coriander is more easily kind of mistaken for the seaweed or something like that, because you have this kind of you know, especially when you have a very salty fish in a restaurant, and you're like, this is the taste of the sea. This is exactly how I think it would be if I just swallowed a bunch of seawater, and this is what it would taste like. This kind of this feels like it's that, like, there's a load of flavor combinations in here which are very difficult to pick out, but make a very interesting flavor that is, I think, just as we were saying, kind of just cut through with that salt which sticks around. But the more I talk and the more I don't go back to it, the more the other elements kind of come in. So the fruity, at least I thought it was more sort of berry fruitiness, kind of comes back a little bit. The sourness of everything kind of appears again as well. So actually, like, oh, this is a sour beer. It's just got such a salty finish, which gives a bit of a bitter end to it, that it doesn't really seem like a sour when you first sort of drink it. It's only, you know, I think as my palate will acclimatise to the different flavours that are going on, that I think the nature of the beer, the sour element of it will come through that little bit more, the more towards the end I get. It's definitely
unique.
It's very unique, very much, and it's one to sup rather than to sort of knock back quickly. Even with that salt drying you out and being the sort of predominant flavour, it doesn't really call me to go back to it very much. You know, it doesn't want me to be like, this is what you've got, experience everything else again, because I think it's rounded enough that you don't worry that you're like, oh, this is overly bitter, I better go back to it and experience everything all over again just to wash that bitterness out. It's not like that at all.
The finish has a bit of ducking and weaving of flavors, and then it just kind of a long, slightly salty one, but just like you said, not salty enough that you're like, ugh. Weirdly, it doesn't make you go salty aftertaste. I might need to quench that with something. It's a very unique beer.
Yeah, very much. I'm glad I've experienced it now, and I shall continue to drink it. So thank you, sir, for the gift.
Yeah, I brought 2 beers to Bristol and came home with it. It was 1 a.m. because of the train delays, and I'm walking home the 25 minutes with this like carrier bag full of beer, being like, this is really annoying. I've been carrying this around since 5, but also since 3, but also,
yeah.
Now I don't have to buy another beer for the rest of the year, because
nice.
I'll keep every single one of them for the podcast.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I do just by chance I do enjoy where the bottle cap also just managed to crack. So he's
lose one eye.
Just lost one eye. It's slightly more piratey
That's
than
actually
the.
more demonic looking. That looks more like
He's like,
a weird pea demon
yeah.
or whatever. Is it a demon or a ghost?
Oh,
What
fuck
is it?
knows. I don't know.
Umi-
Demon.
Well.
Oni. They're demons, aren't they? Oni.
Yeah.
Oni of the sea. This one, perhaps.
Is it like every
Umibozu.
demon is a ghost, but not every ghost is a demon?
I don't even think every demon's a ghost.
I don't know.
Ghost. This. I mean,
You know, like
ghosts
every
usually are
rectangle is a
deceased
square.
beings from the mortal plane, and I think demons are like never born here, right?
That's true.
The other planes.
I don't know. There's some
Sure.
kids out there that are some demons.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not to diverge too much, but there's a new trailer for the Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters film coming out.
I haven't seen it.
And
another one?
anytime I drink a goza, I just think of Ghostbusters. So, we brought it Ghosts.
To be clear, this is a sequel to the second reboot, which was because both
There
reboots
was a
technically
second
were
reboot.
sequels to Ghostbuster 2,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay.
the second one wasn't a sequel to the new Ghostbusters.
I mean, I think it's all set in the same space, in the same universe, right? So in the last film that came out under the name Ghostbusters, Dan Aykroyd is in it. And is the character the retired? He's retired as such.
I thought Afterlife. No, yeah, the reboot in 2016 that Paul Feig directed, I don't think is in the same universe as Afterlife and now Frozen Empire.
Oh, okay. That was the
female,
all female one, wasn't
there
it?
was the all female one that all the fans were horrendous
God,
about. Never gave it a chance. And then weirdly, what's his name, Ivan Reitman, was like, I'm gonna make the movie just for the fans, to commemorate his dad.
Yes.
Right. And then in the worst way, because this one's gonna be for the fans, i.e. the fans who didn't like it, i.e. the bad guys.
All the misogynists. This one's for the misogyn. Even though they get in quite well, some fairly strong female
honest,
characters in
that would probably make it sell more if you just sell that. If that was the tagline for the film. Because sadly, people come out in their droves and just like, this movie's for me.
Yo, they're gonna bust all those girls who ghosted me.
Completely different film. It's
God,
Bill Murray's
not
just
a
sat there
reality
drinking.
show where people submit their people who ghosted them and then they track them down.
Oh mate, hosted by Bill Murray, and he is just scathing the entire way through. That's just he just rips people to fucking pieces and hits on all the women. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely appropriate.
Is he still dating Khalees? I wonder. That was interesting. I wonder if he's still dating Khalees, Bill Murray.
Who knows?
But yeah, so I did look it up, and it was a reboot in 2016,
Right?
And then Afterlife came out in 2021, and Frozen Empire will come out next year and will be a continuation. So Afterlife is like a time jump sequel,
Right?
Sequel
Yep.
that takes place decades later.
Yep.
Hence why Dan Aykroyd's in it, and then Frozen Empire is.
Has everyone except Harold Ramis in it, I suppose, from the original team of 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You see their faces, at least. All of their faces are there.
I will never watch this film. Like I've never watched the other two.
It's on Netflix. It's an easy watch. It's a very easy watch.
Which the new one?
Yeah.
Thank you, but I'm okay. Ghostbusters is literally near the bottom of 80s films that I enjoy.
Really?
Anyway. Yeah, it's okay, but
to put us back on track a bit, I think the Ghostbusters video game was a really good Ghostbusters piece of media, better than anything of the new stuff.
Okay.
Are you talking about the 360 one?
Yeah.
Around that. Yeah, I didn't play it, but yeah, I've heard that sentiment.
It had the right vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Rapey.
But sorry.
No, please continue.
Sorry? So let's put it this way: because of all the misogyny and the fact that after having rewatched Ghostbusters 1 and 2 in the past decade, I realized they aren't as good as what I liked. Also, it turns out I liked the cartoon a lot.
Yeah, although
I preferred the cartoon.
yeah,
It
definitely.
was great.
Yeah.
So
I like
say
the
this
universe of Ghostbusters, just not the actual films that much.
yeah. So it turns out you can measure my fandom of the of a franchise based on my acquisition of their Lego.
Yeah. Did you ever get that
I
Ecto
bought
one?
the original DeLorean set from Lego Ideas. That was one of the first Lego Ideas sets that ever came around. And then last year or 2 years ago or whatever, when the Icons version of it came out, bought that too because I can't just have one DeLorean from Lego. Oh, also I have the Playmobil DeLorean.
That's cool though. Playmobil DeLorean's
Yeah,
quite cool.
the Playmobil
set.
Back to the Future set was really cool. I would have
Yeah.
gotten that, but yeah. And the Lego Ecto one.
So I have the Lego
that's pretty
Ecto
much-
1 that
yeah.
originally came out. That was minifig sized and came with the 4 minifigs with their proton packs.
Nice.
I also did get the Dimensions Slimer and the time traveling train set from Back to the Future because I really like the idea of Dimensions. Boy, did that whole thing fail miserably, and now they're weird.
Yeah.
I just have these weird games.
Portal one.
Hmm?
I got the Portal one.
Mm.
I always wanted the Scooby Doo one, but I don't think I got that. But yeah, the Portal.
But they came out with a fancy Ecto 1 that's like more of akin to like the really big builds.
Yep.
So it's just intricate, not minifig sized at all, but the details of their like vehicles, no fucking interest.
Right.
And
Okay.
in like 5 years between these two, something just died in me about that franchise. What happened was I rewatched them. That's what killed it, right?
Yeah. As I say, like they were never my favorite originally, and yeah, rewatching them is. I'd just rather do anything else with my time.
We played both Ghostbusters in my cousin's basement. Like I had a proton pack and I had the trap, and the trap fucking never opened, and it was just, which was so infuriating because it's not like it opened and did something. It just needed to stand on a thing, but it's air pressure based, and it was just not. The plastic was too heavy for little doors.
Oh, we had the trap. It was, I never remember it not working. But
I mean, maybe we had a bad one, or we were just uncoordinated nerds.
The way toys were made back then, I mean, the
very
amount of times you hear things getting recalled because some child ingested a part of it, or
it got up and
made
stabbed
them
someone.
turn blue. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wait, there was a 2022 video game called Spirits Unleashed?
Yes, I thought that's the one you were talking about. The
Ghostbusters
super
video
recent
game.
one.
2009 Ghostbusters : the video game that came out for the PS3, Windows 360, and then there was a subpar PS2, PSP, Wii version.
A port.
Of course there was.
Yeah, but it was one of those like ports.
Yeah.
Yeah, they remastered it for the PS4, Switch, Xbox One, Steam in 2019, probably for one of these damn movies. But I didn't know there was a Spirits Unleashed game and this year.
Is that a first person
VR game?
Oh, that's the VR one, right? This year, right? Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
That's really weird.
But
again, we've just established I don't actually care.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about games we have played? Does anyone want to talk about games we have played? Adil, there's games you've played. I know there's a game you've played.
Finished that game that I'm supposed to have talked about 2 months ago. I finished Venba. I was like 20 minutes away from the end.
Right.
From my, it is short. It is short. I really liked it. Obviously, if you didn't listen to the previous episodes, we've talked about it. It is a cooking-ish game that takes place over essentially the lifetime of Venba after she's moved to Canada with her husband in the late 80s from India. They're Tamil. And it just continues on, and basically every chapter is like a new moment in her and her family's life, and it's about it's not really about the cooking. Like the pretense is her mom, when she moved away from India, gave her a recipe book. She hasn't touched it for years, so some stuff is like not lasted, and so you have to figure out how to make the recipes in the right way, where there's like rubbed off stuff or missing information. Um, sort of. We'll get to that in a second. But it's really a narrative about the immigrant experience. I think Cold Take on The Escapist, not that that exists. Oh yeah, one of the most recent Cold Take, which I didn't even know was a series, is basically was talking about, was it Cold Take? Yeah. It was one of the Escapist video series I didn't realize they had, because I only ever watched Zero Punctuation and only that name frequently. We talked about Venba and another thing, and basically said the reason I'm talking about these two games is because they're good games, but I can't generically recommend them, because some games are, if I know you're part of the right audience, you will love it. That was the premise, and that's exactly what this is. And they basically said something along the lines of, like, if you are an immigrant or part of like a first gen family, you will understand this, and it will touch you in a certain way. And it's not that people, it's just, it's not a thing you can get. It's just a thing you are.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something like that. I mean, I think that's true, because you can't. There's like, it's just the subtle dance of certain bits that just speak to you because you lived it. And obviously, not all. I'm not. My family's not Tamil, right? And like, they didn't move to Toronto. Not that Toronto and Calgary are really different video game wise. But it, like, mostly just takes place in an apartment, right? And it's just about being there. But there's also different moments of their family having hardship, or just living and having to adapt, that was really interesting, because I'm the kid, and the kid is like, it's focused on the mom, but I assume Abhi, the lead designer, I think he's probably someone like me.
Sure.
Because like, what I thought was really smart was focusing it on the mom. First of all, love letter to your mom, I'm guessing, but the mom is from away and never stops being Indian primarily. So it actually, by making her the main character, she's kind of like the steady state narrator. And as you watch her kid grow up and struggle with his identity, the struggle is not the main character. The main character isn't changing that much within a short game, is very good, right? So she's actually like, even though she's literally defined as being other in the context, she's actually stable. She's always the other, and so it makes the story from her perspective. You get to see her watch her son change, and that's like I think that's such a stronger narrative of the first gen immigrant experience than if you were following him.
Sure.
Just her stability of always knowing her identity as an Indian in Canada, and her family's now there. It just means you can notice more on the other characters, even if they're not taking up screen time. Which, again, it's a short game, but I thought that was really smart. I teared up at one point of the game. It still disappointed me gameplay wise.
Right.
So the first few levels, you are doing this decoding of the cookbook. There's a puzzle there, and I think in the last couple levels, there's this huge meal you're making, and there's a plot point that I don't want to spoil that like is related to you making this meal, but it feels really rushed, because every other recipe you're having to figure out, and I know like decades have passed, and the point is you now know how to make these, and you're just making them. But it's most of that chapter, there's no skill involved, because it's just click on a thing when there's an outline. You're not even reading the book anymore, and I get the idea that, I assume the idea is she's now old, and so has learned all these recipes in the interim from the beginning. And like I think they were doing this notion of like accelerating. So like When she finally cracked the cookbook, it was hard, and she had to figure things out. And then a couple of years pass, right? And then she's figuring out more recipes, and at some point she decides to like figure out the whole book or whatever. Although we know that wasn't the case given the point in the end. But I think that was a really missed opportunity because that meal had a notion of disappointment. That's as spoilery as I want to get.
Right.
Just because it's short, and I think I don't want to spoil a beat.
So just
the disappointment would have hit harder if I was making 5 meals, right? Instead, the 5 meals took about the same amount of game time, maybe a little longer than one of the more intricate first meals. And actually, if I had to go through all of the steps of those 5 meals, and some of it was like you're cutting a fish, which, boy, did that feel weird. They had this very nice art style, but cutting into the fish and seeing the layers of flesh, I was like, as a vegan, this feels weird.
I was just getting hungry at that point.
Then you just have a spice bowl, and you just click on the spice bowl and dump it.
Yeah.
And you didn't make the spice bowl, right? But
Right.
if I had to prepare all of the spices and all of the steps, all 5 of these complicated meals, then when I hit the requisite emotional point, I have done the work that the character has done.
Yeah.
And ensuing emotion, right? I think it was a
that
really
still hit for me like that. I get what you're saying, but it still hit me like that part. It's just like,
oh yeah, I'm just
oh man,
saying,
that's a gut punch. Yeah.
yeah, it's a gut punch, but I think
it could have been even more.
It would.
Yeah.
So what I'm guessing is
Punchy.
that it would have been more punchy, and the game part would have been more consistent. So that's why I was like, really? Because it's not that the narrative didn't hit. It's just the narrative would have hit more just because I would have been more invested. But also, if I was trying to play this game and like just having the plot happen at me because I was like, cooking game, I would have been disappointed in the cooking as well. So I just think it was like a natural spot where they just dropped the ball. Probably because they were afraid of
it was a bit jarring gameplay wise. So I was like, why am I not doing the whole rigmarole here? So yeah, it did stand out to me at that point. And that was probably one of my things about the why is there no like recipe book in the game or like in a menu, because it's like, yeah, you're doing quite a few like different dishes there that all have their own merit, and yet you're not even saying what some of these are, so or giving the name of them so somebody can look them up.
So it's not like and kind of like the puzzle element of this game is sort of like some of the ingredients are missing off of this recipe. You've got to guess what they are necessarily, or
the order of things.
Right. Okay.
So almost every puzzle, when it's puzzly, is like, oh, this part's rubbed off. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here. You have all the right bits are in front of you. There's never like go to the fridge moment, right?
Sure.
It's just what am I supposed to do with this if it's not on the list of things I can read, etc. And then there's also this weird thing where later chapters the book is all in Tamil in a way that it was half translated before.
Right.
If I remember correctly.
I can't remember.
Anyway, so the point is like it sets a notion of what the puzzles are, and I get that maybe they just want to like order flipping, etc. But I think there still would have been some interesting, like, I guess they kind of streamlined that chapter a lot, even though it was the biggest meal you make, and it was because you're basically just like, click a thing, click a thing, click a thing, click a thing. Now that thing's glowing, click it. Oh, it flips it. I never had to know I didn't know what it was making. Didn't know what was in the bowl. I knew there was a pot with some little, like, with a thing in it that had spots, so I just dumped the stuff in the spots. Then, when I did that, they all started bubbling, and I now had to flip them. Now I know what they made, because I know what the dish is. And then I take them out, and they've cooked on both sides. And, like, the nitpicky guy in me would be like, oh, they appeared randomly, but clearly that one has been sitting for so long, it should have been cooked first. I don't care about that. That's what I'm not being that guy. I'm saying, I am being the guy of saying, at least tell me, like, not in, because there's like a list of things she's cooking that she quickly crosses off, and you can't really read it. But like saying, I'm making this at the very minimum would have been just like at the minimum. I think it was needed because it's just like I am now just cooking things except for the fish. I don't even know what the fish is spiced with. I never knew, right? Because the spice bowl I didn't create. The list was in Tamil. It was just 1 in 7 things I was doing or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it felt like they didn't have
That's
faith
a shame.
in their mechanic of like I'm doing this slowly and methodically. And actually, I found even the kind of more straightforward recipes interesting to do just because it was like I'm pretending to cook.
But you kind of almost want the experience that you've had with this and the way that the story kind of progresses, but also that the puzzle element of a little bit of kind of figuring stuff out, but that things can kind of go wrong as well, right? Okay,
Well,
it turns it into a slightly different game
so-
potentially, but
there's a lot of ways of doing this. Like, I don't know if you've ever planned a multi-course meal for people. The struggle is exactly what other cooking games do, which is timing things.
yeah,
Right?
absolutely,
Actually,
absolutely.
in the 20 years in which we are with Venba, she consistently is in the same apartment, which I think is a good choice, but with a hot plate. It's like, okay, you could have bought a second hot plate. Like there's like space to think about because actually some of the early things she made are just gonna be too cold in the way that the narrative presents them. Like the fish is not the last thing that's cooked. You cook a whole other curry in a pressure cooker afterwards. So that means that fish is cold even when everything is done, and that's just not what an Indian mom would do.
Sure.
Right? Like that's a pedantic thing because it's like
I was just thinking
that is
I was just like,
true.
I was just playing the game and I didn't think about timings or
I
anything
just
like
mean,
that. But,
I mean, obviously,
yeah.
I don't think it needed to have that. I'm just saying there was space to increase the puzzle space,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
they didn't think that the like decoding the recipe stuff had enough legs to do for 7 chapters or whatever it is, they could have expanded that and still kind of like done something. And again, I think in that, especially that meal. Because the point was you're making 5 or 6 different things, and none of it. There was no way you could screw up. It stopped being a puzzle, right? And it's just like
Yeah.
a visual novel, but except you have to find the next page button.
It was
Sure.
an outlier in terms of the rest of the game, for sure.
Yeah,
But,
again, I want to preface this with the whole thing
Yeah.
is great, and it's also
Mhm.
compact and I think worth buying and supporting the developer. I don't want to take away from that, but that's like it stood out. I think that level because it was like, oh, this felt weird and rushed. And like I'm thinking about that gameplay wise, and then I'm like, oh, right.
Is
Emotion.
as a just as a kind of concluding kind of comment to those points, do you think this is something that you, as someone who enjoys cooking and very much knows what you're doing, do you think this stood out more to you because of that?
Oh, interesting. I don't think so. Well, at least not this level because I'm trying to grade it on its own curve, right?
Sure.
The first couple levels were. I told you last week I didn't even think about blending rice dry to make flour because I rarely blend things unless there's liquid involved, and that was a brain fart of mine. I was making rice. I mean, I couldn't read rice flour, but I understood what it was doing. Obviously,
Yep.
you don't add white, and that was none of that notion. There's no space for that in this. It was just click through stuff, right? And so there wasn't space for a mistake, and that's why I thought it was a missed opportunity. Just because it would have, yeah, some stakes. Not that I think steaks should have been in the meal.
Yeah.
Would have made again the narrative point stronger, but also would have been gameplay. And this felt like they took the gameplay away at the level in which they had been previously presenting it. And that's the thing is like I'm not saying, oh, I want a more complex cooking game in your narrative game. I'm saying you gave me a more complex cooking game, and then you kind of took it away for a bit, which could have been like the main hump game mechanic wise, and instead was like, we'll just and I either it was a I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a deadline thing or just a you know some cold feet on can we really ask the player to do this 5 times in a row.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
And maybe they're right. Maybe I'm the only guy who wants to see it 5 times in a row. But I think there's at least a middle ground, right?
I think there's probably like it may work narratively in the way that you say it, like show her doing all those laborious steps. I think there's also a narrative argument to being like, oh look, she's doing this. It's very fun and very quick, and you know, it's like a little montage almost. Why there isn't like any mechanics in it potentially, and then it's just like, you know, you're on this high, and there's nothing like stopping you or getting you. You know, there's no like fail instance like there is in some of the other puzzles, and it's like you're still riding that high, only for then just to be the disappointment afterwards. So I think there's arguments to be made for it works that way, and it could also work in your way as well. So I think
fair
arguments with those.
Good. Any closing comments quickly on Venba?
Enjoyed it. I think I was pretty much where Aadil is. You know, probably could have been a bit more puzzly and stuff like that, and you know, it does have its flaws, but I think the story that it tells and the way it tells it through those mechanics, despite them being quite simple, is still quite, you know, powerful. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but it won't be something that, like, it's not going to be on like my, well, I don't even have a top 10 this year, my top 5 or something, top 10 or whatever. So yeah, just a nice experience, nice little experience.
Good.
Something different. Yeah.
It might be different, but like I said, I want to be clear that I enjoyed it, and I think people should play it. It just was like, again, it's an indie studio, clearly a labor of love. It just, if you see the early levels or whatever, just be prepared for that inconsistency. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, fair.
Good.
Fair.
Well, I teared up.
Good.
It was like an hour and a half total.
Yeah.
I think, right? So like,
I mean, tears.
There's some emotional bits in there for sure.
Yeah. That's always going to drive a game up towards the top of our game of the year lists. Usually.
Did it make me sob? Yes.
If you haven't played that, play that. That's a fucking tearjerker.
What was the one that got you last year, Lucy? Citizen Sleeper?
Oh, Citizen Sleeper, yeah, gosh.
Play that.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
The sequel's coming out.
Yes,
I think
next year.
so. Yeah,
So
I think
still
the
have
sequel's
Game
coming
Pass
out next year.
on the Xbox app.
Interesting. Maybe just
that'd be a very good Steam Deck game. I think is that how I played it? Yeah, that was how I played it, like streaming it to the Steam Deck from
your PC. Oh, I
cloud.
keep forgetting that's a thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have
I said it, but my PC is no longer like that robust.
Yeah.
I built it in the pandemic.
Yeah, that's when I got mine, and it's a refurb at that. So still, my most powerful PC is that Microsoft Surface. That's still going.
Right. Let's move on. We'll move on from Venba. Lucy, you got anything you want to chat about this week?
Yeah, say November.
Yeah. No. That's very good. This has been. No, it's been very Venba. Anyway, I will briefly touch on Air Twister, and I mean briefly because I put up a post about it today, which is juicylucy9.substack.com or whatever.
Did you?
But yes. Yeah. You might have gone to your junk email.
My email has not notified me that you have done this. I need to find it now and make sure that I'm not getting fucked over by my emails.
That's alright. Just banned it outright. It's like, this is spam. This is phishing. This is phishing. Yeah, so anyone can read like a bit more in-depth thoughts over there. But yeah, it's the spiritual successor to Space Harrier. By the same creator, which I mean we spoke about Space Harrier a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yu Suzuki, his grand opus, the Space Harrier, and this somehow got made. Someone, reversed a dump truck full of money. Probably not a lot of money, because the game was very budget. But nevertheless, I think someone gave him money to put to make a game and put it on Apple Arcade. And you know what? If someone gave me money, I would make a Space Harrier.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual successor too. And that's what it is. It's basically Space Harrier, just a lot easier, which is good because Space Harrier is hard as balls. Yeah, if you've ever played Space Harrier, this is the same thing. It's just got a non-pixelated, slightly shiny coat of paint on it. You're doing the same thing, like it's an on-rail shooter. You're floating, around the screen, dodging enemy fire, and shooting like ridiculous things. Your weapon, it can either do a singular shot, or basically, to lock onto multiple enemies, you just have to, be in line with them. Like, okay, you're gonna have to be in line with them when you move around the screen, and you can just like select. I think it's either 5 or 6 multi-locks from the beginning, but you can upgrade that and it goes to even more. So it's like, yeah, you're just it in a way it kind of plays itself. There's not as much. Yeah, like I think there's 12 stages in all. Haven't quite got to the end of them, but the first time I played it, and this is without any of the unlocks, or any of the upgraded skill trees where you can get like, added durability or added attack, or you can slow down time. I got up to stage 7 without seeing my first game over. And I had 2 continues, but I was like, I know there's like a skill tree in this, so it's just like, I'm going to not bother use the continues just so that I could, just get out of the game and see what I could then unlock.
Kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, because I probably could have continued and maybe get to a few extra stages, possibly. But yeah, I was like, I want to see a bit more what this game has to offer immediately.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it's a far breezier game than Space Harrier ever was. But the best thing about it is that it's got this absurd soundtrack where it's basically a Queen tribute. It's not even a band, I think it's just one guy.
I was not expecting this. Go on, sorry. It's not that I wasn't listening before, but I'm very much listening now.
Yeah. Like, as soon as you load up the game, the title screen, it's basically Bohemian Rhapsody if you don't listen to the lyrics. And it's just... and I was just like... My brain tricked me and I thought, am I listening to Queen? Is this a Queen song? I don't know. And then I had to Google it immediately. And it was just like, whilst I was doing that and just going down this rabbit hole of this Dutch composer and multi-instrumentalist, the song was just playing. And like when you're in the menus as well, like doing the upgrade tree, the song is just playing. And I was just like, this is the most absurd thing. It's... It doesn't fit with the game at all. But I love it because it does.
That's even better.
Yes. I was just like, okay, Yu Suzuki, he liked this guy. He I don't think anyone told him no.
Well,
this. And it's just like, that is what you want from somebody. Like, so no one told Kojima no on Death Stranding, and he made what he wanted. And it's like, why can't all these, why can't there just be, well, there is infinite money, let's be real, but like, why can't there just be infinite money to all these developers and just say, make what you want? And then you end up with this weird mishmash of Space Harrier to like this rock opera soundtrack, and it's just fantastic.
YouTube has almost all of the songs on there, and is there one that I should just play 30 seconds of without us getting a copyright strike?
Gosh, what's the title screen on? It's in my article. It's called Phantom of the Opera. So that tells you everything that you need to know, isn't it?
Phantom of the Opera 2022. Yeah. Here we go. Right. Let's see if this will come through. No, we'll get rid of the ad. Apologies, everybody.
Grammarly Premium.
I assume this is
Premium
being
plan
picked
with
up on
Grammarly
Discord.
Can take your writing from good enough to
No, it
better
shouldn't
than
be.
you thought possible. Let's take a look at the
I'm not
value
hearing
On
of
OBS. It's being picked up on
Brought to you
OBS.
by my
Pick on
cousin
OBS,
Izzy's
it's not going to be
business
picked on
email.
Discord.
No.
Izzy is net-
It's the opposite of me pushing the soundboard things on Discord. Okay, what was it called? I'll have to...
Are you listening, Ben?
Jesus Christ, yes. Fucking hell. Right. All of us, just... if you put in Air Twister, OST, Phantom of the Opera 2022.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh my god.
And I mean, the listener has a very small selection of it. Audacity won't have picked this up, so I don't know how I'm going to overlay this. But
Well, you know where to go, listener. And if you want to be treated,
listener, if you want to
just do
know
as we
what the
say.
fuck we're talking about, yeah. Air Twister OST Phantom of the Opera 2022.
There's a link to it in my piece on Substack.
I'm gonna play. I just
the URL there.
for everybody on the video version.
I just want.
Bye.
This is insane.
This is really great.
But yeah.
Stop, like, fuck.
It's just immediately. It's like this. As you can tell, the I think he's called Valencia with a S instead of a C. Obviously, on Wikipedia, it says, "Oh, a big inspiration is Queen."
Sure.
And it's like, didn't really get.
I think I can... I do... Can you hear it now?
No.
Am I outputting to you?
No.
No? Okay.
It's all
I
I've been
thought there was
hearing in my
like
head for the
good-
last several days.
Oh,
anyway.
we'll find a way. Just in case we ever come across this again where we want to bring this on, I have to find a way to bring in another track on OBS for everybody to be able to listen
have a way
to.
do it. I just can't remember what it is. But
Yeah. But there you go. I mean, one of the comments on, if Bohemian Rhapsody is so great, why isn't there a Bohemian Rhapsody 2? Valencia, hold my beer. Like, that is literally one of the comments on the thing. So I mean, just yeah. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, and it's just like you're listening to that soundtrack and riding like this massive goose, and it's just shooting at stingrays, and it's just like, yeah, this is just stupid, and I love it.
Brilliant.
You know? Yeah.
Do you think
This is the space harrier I would have dreamed of.
Yu Suzuki
on
wakes up
acid.
one morning and he's like, I've had a dream about Space Harrier, but it was a little bit different. And this is the ways that it was
Just a little
different.
bit.
Let's do this. Just game made instantly done. Everyone else is like, yes, of course we can render a giant goose. Yes, that's something we can do, of course. Like you say,
that's it. Very good.
yeah. It's just his yes game, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm glad he got to make it. So happy days. But I really want to know why you were playing Far Cry. Far Cry New Dawn. I saw it on Discord earlier, and I was like, I have to ask him what happened.
I mean, like, I'll talk about it for 5 minutes, I suppose. I was just
PS
browsing.
Plus game?
It's a PS Plus game, yeah, absolutely. And I'm browsing around, going like, I don't really know what to play. Waiting for the new games to come out. I started Inscription. And I'm like, I've already played Inscription. I don't think I want to play it kind of through again. The first bit is not particularly good with the kids about, perhaps, because like the imagery and stuff isn't fantastic for kids, so I'll get rid of that. Not that Far Cry is much better for kids, but at least it's so removed from fucking reality in terms of kind of the action first person shooter kind of thing that doesn't really matter that much, but it is just mindless bullshit. Right, Far Cry New Dawn is just mindless bullshit.
Was that the DLC?
what is New Dawn?
So
the colourful one.
No, so New Dawn. It's like the Blood Dragon.
One.
Yeah, it's like the Blood Dragon
reimagining.
of 5, and I don't know whether it's the same map, but because I haven't played 5, but 5 was the like set in the States. there's this apocalyptic cult kind of religious-y weird thing going on.
Jared Leto.
This is a direct sequel to that.
Yeah, so it's a sequel versus like Blood Dragon was an insanity.
Yes.
What can we do with this engine?
But this game is kind of like the nukes did go off. And this is the world 15, 20 years later kind of thing, when everyone is able to come back out of their bunkers in certain places, and this group of people are terrorizing everybody. This group of people tried to help everybody and it didn't quite work, and you're one of those people. You're kind of like an outsider who's come into this area, which I would assume is the same map, still called Hope County, which is what I think the map in Far Cry 5 was called. So I think it essentially, like, we could just make another game based on all of the assets that we already have, but because it's slightly post-apocalyptic and I'm running around looting bags off of the floor and picking up duct tape and then shooting people from cover, feels very much like The Division. And very much not in a gameplay kind of wise, but in a setting and a tone kind of way. Even though it's not in a city, it's in the kind of American reclaimed wilderness almost. But it's very much that kind of vibe, like run around, loot some stuff, shoot some people, loot some more stuff, shoot some more people, loot some more stuff, shoot some more fucking people. Then I'll craft some bits, and then I'll loot some more stuff, and I'll shoot some more fucking people. And that is it. It's just rinse and repeat. Shoot some stuff, loot some people.
Fun.
No. Yes.
Looting and shooting.
Looting and shooting, basically. And it is mindless fun. I mean, it's just very, very easy. And I'm sure there's a bunch of PlayStation Plus games on there which would be equally kind of as easy. But it sort of sits in that same space that most first-person shooters, at least the campaigns of most first-person shooters, kind of do. I had a thought to return to Metro Exodus, but I kind of wasn't quite in the mood for the intensity.
Seems like something you absolutely have to be in the mood for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say most of the time, 80% of my time, I'm probably in the mood for something like that. But not quite when the evenings are getting that little bit darker and it's already a bit like, oh, where's the sun gone? And then to play a game where you're like, oh, there's no sun here. Whereas New Dawn is like, the sun, it exists, and everybody has come back outside. It's amazing. But it is just mindless.
Well, thank you for answering my question as to why.
Well,
you could have just said you just wanted mindless fun. I was like, yeah.
Yes. I know we've mentioned the newer podcast that we are in the process of putting a few episodes together for, which is very franchise focused. Aadil, you were on the first recording of to talk about Assassin's Creed, and Dave, who is hosting when we start putting those episodes out and start to record some more, asked for some ideas, and I thought, Far Cry, that it's a series I really enjoy the first few games of, 1 to 3. I really like the first 3 games. Blood Dragon as well was just completely out there as a product. The TV show came out recently, has it in my mind as well, or the Netflix show has it in my mind as well. And I'm like, I'll play some Far Cry. I'm pretty sure they're all on PS Plus. I didn't play 4. I'll go back and play 4. It's not there. Okay, fine. I'll play 5. It's not there. Okay, what's the next one? Well, New Dawn. Okay, well, I'll try that. And as I'm playing New Dawn, I'm thinking I should probably just go and play 6, because that is free on PS Plus as well.
Already?
Yes. Yeah, and 6 only came out last year.
Yeah, but PS Plus tends to be the year, right?
True.
Second boost of a game.
Yeah, and I think they've got a deal with Ubisoft as well. So I think if you're a premium subscriber, you basically have whatever the Ubisoft product is these days. It used to be Ubisoft Connect. I don't know what it's called anymore. But where you have all Ubisoft games free, essentially. And I don't know whether the tier that I'm on just get like a taster of things in and out every couple of months sort of thing, which would make sense if they've partnered up. The same as Microsoft have partnered up with EA, right? For if you've got Game Pass Ultimate, you have EA whatever there. stuff is yes. Yeah.
Is that why when I opened up the Xbox app earlier, it opened up EA Play? Or is that just something weird
I
happened?
don't know.
Depends what game you were trying to launch, I imagine.
I just opened up the Xbox app and then EA Play splash screen came in and I was like, what are you doing?
Maybe install this too if you want to play
Sure.
Battlefield 2.
Star Wars Battlefront
Oh, gosh, I
remake
remember those
2,
games.
reboot 2, or whatever. Yeah. Because I think when
Remember
you and
those.
I, Adel, we played Battlefront, but like through something else that then took you through
we had to
EA
go on.
Play.
It was it post Origin? Or was it? Yeah, I think it was the launch of the Origin.
I think it was you had to go into Origin, yeah.
Yeah, but I couldn't remember if it was when they replaced Origin with EA Play, but before you could just natively launch some of those games.
Yeah, you couldn't natively launch. I think we played it through something like GOG.
I think we had GOG or Steam or something, and we owned it on those, but we still had to go through the EA thing.
Yeah. Awkwardness.
Which was balls.
It is. I think this is where the consoles kind of do things that a little bit easier. It's a little bit more streamlined, isn't it? On console, it's kind of like a game is game. It exists here. Here it is. Rather than on PC, it's like, well, there's 12 different ways of being able to access this, and we're going to take you through path number 53, which can get a little bit frustrating. And stuff is streamlining slightly these days, especially with lots of stuff just natively coming out on Steam now. But if you pay for a subscription somewhere else for EA Play or something like that, you're going there anyway to play those games. So you're not going through the path as such to experience them. But yeah, I mean, I'm bopping around PlayStation Plus a little bit, picking up games.
You might as well.
Yeah, one of the games one of the free monthly games this month is Alien Fireteam Elite, which I know got a little bit of stick when it released, but again, it's one of those where I'm like, I'm mildly interested in playing a little bit of this.
Is that the strategy game?
No, that is the multiplayer shooter.
Yeah.
Although Fireteam Elite, Aliens Fireteam Elite sounds like it should be like an XCOM game. I think you need Descent.
Or an RTS,
is it
maybe even
Aliens Dark Descent or something like that? That was like a strategy-ish game from this year.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. That'd be interesting. I like Alien.
Yeah. Well, and again, apart from maybe Alien Isolation, which looked to capture the tone of Alien, everything else is much more set in Aliens or Alien 3 or that kind of mode of action game, rather than it being slightly more shit scary, as Alien Isolation could very much be.
I couldn't get past I didn't get far in that game because I was like, ooh. I did buy there was like a spin-off mobile game to Alien Isolation, and it was going to be delisted. Yeah, and if you told me that, I'd have been like, what, really? Which I was when I read that article. And then when I looked at the screenshots, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. It was like 99 pence. I was like, yeah, I'll try it, because people said, it's alright. Yeah. Don't know if it's been delisted yet. Maybe the end of the month or something, I don't know.
Ooh.
But yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe it already has been. And I don't even know the name of it, so I can't even...
Just type Alien.
Yeah.
Alien phone game.
ET Phone Home. That Alien phone game.
Yeah.
You know. But it's sort of like, was it Republic? The one where you like looking at video cameras and directing people where to go on dependent. Yeah. So yeah, maybe probably never play it, but at least I have it.
No, it exists.
I ever wanted to. Yeah.
As long as there's no weird DRM when it gets delisted and you try and open it up, it's just like, no, this game no longer exists.
face on.
We need to do better as an industry.
Absolutely.
Preserve these things.
You're
Just throw it on the web, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? throw the code.
Absolutely.
on
If your game's gonna be
Great.
delisted, just make it open source.
Yeah.
if only
Yeah.
that was what people did.
Just let people experiment.
Some people have it, and it's like, yes, this is cool. Like, wasn't that shooter from Epic Games?
Paragon.
Yeah, didn't they just like here you go,
Yeah.
open source, do what you will.
That was a little while afterwards.
Right,
Maybe a
okay.
year, maybe a little bit longer.
Mhm.
But yes, there was then kind of like a fan outcry, I suppose.
Yeah.
For them to do something with it, and it did get open source in some kind of way. Yeah.
That's what it should happen to every game. I know there's weird license stuff probably for the Alien game, but like everything else, just throw it up. Like, who cares?
They just make it a slightly different looking alien. Just change the sprite or whatever. Change the character model to have like some tentacles.
Thomas
or
the Tank
something
Engine.
instead. Everything is just Thomas the Tank Engine because there's no copyright on Thomas the Tank Engine whatsoever.
None.
Just
None.
like everyone can
Probably
use
over
his
100
likeness
years
forever.
old now.
Oh, good. What a lovely place for us to finish then this week. Rolling around, talking about new games, and then into game preservation. We often come back to. But let's talk about something that you can't preserve, beers. Well, you can, but just not for very long. And at least none of the ones that we've been drinking this evening. Aadil, you first. The Wiper and True Pomona collaboration beer.
Loved it. It's been a minute since I've had a Wiper Drew, and I actually think that given that the clear influence of Pomona Island and making it a little more punchy was great. It start to finish still was nuanced, not quite as subtle as a Wiper Drew can sometimes be. Which, to be honest, like that makes me think like if there was another one of these in my fridge, I would immediately have gone and grabbed one. Just because it was still kind of light, nuanced, but by the end it still tasted great, and I would want another one.
Nice. What was the beer style?
Pale ale. Sorry, a pale ale.
Good. Lucy.
I know that's taken, 6-7 years of being on this podcast to make that dumb joke. And then you're like, no, you've made it 17 million times. You're just ADHD sieve brain doesn't remember shit.
I've got no idea.
Pale ale, I'll try to remember.
Good. We'll all drink one of those next week. Lucy, Dreams of Brew York.
Yeah. Oh, I've still got quite a bit left in the can. Yeah, I think it grew on me slightly. Probably not one I'd pick up again, but
Okay.
yeah, it's decent. It's decent. It's maybe because it's a festive Christmas beer, you don't want it to be too sour, too tart, too light, and maybe that's why they've made it a bit sweeter. And touch of spice is nice, I think. Yeah, it grew on me, but not a massive amount.
Okay.
It's okay. I think that's the best description I can give it. Not great. Probably not even good by my standards, especially for Brew York, because, as I say, like their Nightmare of Brew York or whatever it's called is very nice. And for a Christmas seasonal beer, that's what I'd go towards. Or even the one that I think is called Fairy Tale of Brew York, which is another stout, just not. I think it's only about 7% or something like that. Yeah, this is like the red-headed stepchild, middle stepchild or whatever, where it's like, yeah, you have 3, but this one's probably going to remain on the shelf for most people. Oh, yeah. Hey.
Fair.
First time I've seen cranberries and apple in a beer, or
Yeah, like so.
probably ever. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think when you first mentioned it, cranberry must be a really hard flavour to get across in a beer.
To be honest, probably the best thing I can say about it is that it could have tasted like a nasty cherry cola beer, and I can't stand like cherry cola, and it didn't taste like that at all.
Good.
So yeah, that's why I've actually been able to get through it, and I will finish it. So probably the best thing I can say about it, what it didn't do, which is disgust me.
Fair,
Ugh.
fair, good.
Like cherry Vimto. Oh, I'd rather inhale vomit.
What's the default Vimto flavor? Wasn't-
Blackcurrant?
Oh yeah.
No idea.
Must be, yeah.
Blackcurrant.
I was like, because I like regular old Vimto.
Yeah, it's got to be blackcurrant. For me then the Tartarus, I've got a little bit left as well. It does soften kind of through the beer. You know, those initial tastes hit you so much that you do take a lot from them. That saltiness does absolutely soften as you're kind of drinking through it, and what you get is the salt is still there, absolutely, but what you get is just a little bit more of those flavors kind of coming through. So the fruitiness at the beginning of each of the sip comes through that a little bit more. I think I'm starting to pick out now a little bit more of the coriander. You know, but awkwardly coriander, which is edging slightly more towards that soapy kind of end, because I think again combined with like a seaweed or something like that is just giving me something that's just a bit too kind of salty, and it sort of just doesn't have the same impact and the same punch that it did at the beginning, but it also then has just lost a little bit of itself almost, and actually it's kind of just flattened maybe a little bit towards the end.
Yeah, I think a big part of the taste is not just the punch, but the flow between, like, for me it was like salt, umami, slightly sweet back end kind of swoop, if I remember correctly, but at least it had those bits in some order.
Yes.
And I think, so what you're saying is it's like the curve just got squished.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Same notes, but just not doing the thing. But what was most interesting about it, I agree, is how easily it flowed through those states without being shocking. Right? You're like, you would think that much different taste would have been like a shock, right? Like, oh, I am now twisting and turning, but actually that whole taste felt really organic. Yeah. And then when you have that with the highs and lows getting squashed, you're like, oh, it's not bad, but I kind of miss that neat trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. And I don't think kind of the flavors themselves, if you got this from the offset, are kind of strong enough to be a beer, essentially. Even a Goza, I don't think they kind of lead towards that just sort of straight off the bat. So yeah, it's interesting. It absolutely is interesting. I think it's something as a taste experience that people should try and seek out, definitely, if they like those more sort of out there kind of flavors. And I'm very glad I got to experience kind of a beer that you found very interesting a few weeks ago as well. So friend, if you have drank any interesting beers or played any interesting games and you want to let us know, we are at Tanked Up Cast on the socials. You can go to outoflies.net to look at various articles, reviews, or see us in video form over there as well, and look at the beers that we have been drinking and see our beautiful faces. Lucy, for your long form, short form articles on things like Hair Twister, where do people go?
JuicyLoose9.substack.com. At Substack. One day I'll learn it. Just search Juicy Loose 9 plus Substack.
I assume you're sharing the articles on your Twitter and stuff as well.
No, because that would mean I'd have to actually log on to Twitter.
Fair.
Which I don't tend to do these days. Because it's trash. And it started, like, every time I log on there, there's like the little bell or whatever notification bell has like 20, 25 notifications. It's like, what's this? And it's all this things that are like trending. It's like, well, when did I ever sign up for these notifications?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's so bad now.
Yep.
It's such a awful place. I mean, it was awful in a way that we all loved before. Now it's just genuinely unusable.
Absolutely.
So it's like, yeah, but you know, if you're still using it, just follow me at GCLoose9 if you so wish. Now and then I retweet the odd indie game thingy.
I think it's still used in the gaming space quite.
Yeah,
a lot.
which and that's the shame of it, because it used to be such a good tool for that. And now it's just, you look at any post and they're just like blue tick weird adverts about, you know.
I wish I could
plastic
believe
cups
that
or something.
Muskie was doing some 4D chess and like destroying the platform he didn't like by throwing money at it, but it's clear that he's just very bad.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those people that people have just not been able to say no. You know,
absolutely.
it's like, it's all right when Suzuki makes a, you know, little indie game, but when you're talking about billions getting thrown around, then you really need someone reining you in.
Yeah.
In the world's most prominent communications platform.
Yeah,
It was a thing, right?
it was a very
It
useful
really isn't
tool.
anymore.
No,
Nope.
absolutely not.
And now we've got chat bots on our search engines, which will tell us falsehoods to our faces. Who needs to even decide if the source is good? They've already absorbed them.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of
Great.
bots
The
on
internet was
Twitter as
a
well.
perfect experiment that's only going well.
If people want to talk to you, Aadil, on the internet, how do they do that?
Well, there's this tinfoil hat cave. No, I'm at the Omniarch on all of the things. I'm not as crackpot as against technology as my previous rant might have said, or at least don't tell my bosses that, because I teach ethics of data science and AI at a university.
You know what? We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. And I'm at Nova_47. As we say, go to outlies.net as well, or go to the YouTube page to see what we do. Hang out with us on Twitch as well. Normally each and every Thursday, if you so wish to chat to us in real time too. I think that's everything. They're the beers, they're the games, they're the places we inhabit. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this week. We've been Tanked Up, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net